Hello everyone, and welcome to another oil painting video. This is a 9x12 gesso board from Ampersand with an 1.5 inch deep cradle. And this is a little bit of Sap Green and a little bit of Alizarin Crimson, actually a little bit more Alizarin Crimson. And we're going to do a forest with a little bit of a background glow, something just, I don't know, a little different. Okay, we've got no sketch, as you can see, and I've got my 2-inch brush, even though this is a smaller surface than I've been using. And I'm kind of just putting in shapes, okay? At this point in time, I don't have a lot in my head. I paint water because that's probably something that inspires me more than anything else when I paint. So I'm putting in the water, you see, and I'm just dabbing in trees. And this is, it's a very transparent mix. I'm using M. Graham's Alkyd, Walnut Alkyd Medium, I'm sorry. And I use that with my Alkyd oil paint to speed the drying time. And I used a little bit more oil for what I was kind of sketching in a little bit, if you want to call it a sketch. And now I'm using a little bit more white to put in the sky. And one of the things, there you go, that was an ugly sky, wasn't it? One of the things that I'm learning how to do, and I enjoyed, I've been painting for a long time, but I'm learning to loosen up more, and I'm learning to do a lot more less robotic paintings, okay? I always before thought, a sketch was good, and you had to, have this measured to this and all this other stuff, and it just wasn't the case. I know when I saw Stuart Davies paint, he's on YouTube, and then Dennis Sheehan, who's on YouTube as well, I don't know about getting jealous, but I thought to myself, I want to paint with their attitude. And not necessarily what they paint, but how they go about it. Like I said, their attitude is probably the most. And it's a very loose attitude. They go from way loose and almost transparent, as you can see with the red that's in there. And then they tighten it up to their heart's content. And you only tighten it up as much as you want as you go along. And I'm getting looser with everything. As you can notice, I'm just putting in, that's just straight Paynes Gray. I'm kind of blending a little bit into the sky. And then I'm putting some titanium white on, and then I'm going to blend it out with a brush. And when I'm blending it out, I want to make sure you understand how I'm doing this. It's a very, very light touch, okay? Blending it out might be the wrong phrase to use because blending, has that connotation of blending colors together to make another color. What I'm doing is I'm touching with a bristle brush now, just light enough to move the color, not blend it with the color underneath, okay? As you can see, I'm just pushing the paint around. There might be some parts underneath the cloud, let's say the shadow, where I might go a little firmer to blend it into the sky to have that true smooth transition, but otherwise it's very light. I know it doesn't look like it because I'm going so fast, it's just because I've been doing it for so long. But you don't want to blend out your clouds or your shadows or anything like that. You want to just move the paint. There's a time and a place for a lot of pressure and light pressure. And one of the tricks to learning how to paint really is where you put the pressure and where you don't. Now, right now, this looks a little odd as far as that's going to be my background, and it is. And the finished painting does look a little different, and I like it. I'm the artist. I guess that's my prerogative. Having the same old isn't always a good thing. So that little forest on the right is going to stick out very easily, okay? And it's going to be, I don't want to say dominant, but it's going to definitely be noticeable in the finished painting. And it took me a while. I put the painting down for a little bit. This painting is probably about 2 weeks old now. And I had to put it down and put it aside to let it dry and then kind of get an idea of what I liked about it, what I didn't like, and what I'm keeping. And even though it was a little odd and I had to get used to it, I kept the little forest on the right, even though I put foreground trees in front of it. So that background blend it's growing on me to, for lack of a better term. Okay, so I've got the sky pretty much done. I used a paper towel, as you saw, and I put in some foliage leaves from what I had on there. And I just did that just to get an idea of where I'm placing stuff now as I go. Because like I said, I started out real loose, just kind of putting color on there, and an odd color too, as you can see. And then as I put color on, shapes started, appearing to me, and I started refining here and there. And that's what the whole thing is about. You throw the color on in a very loose manner. It doesn't even have to be no schematic to it, no actual design element to it. Throw some paint on with your brush, and shapes will start to appear. And the shapes that you find appealing, you refine, and then before you know it, your painting is done. I honestly have been fighting this for years because I didn't believe it to be true. And lo and behold, it was. And I'm grateful that I started listening and doing it and relaxing. And the other part is I'm a little upset that I didn't do it a long time ago, because this way of painting is so much fun. So now I'm using the knife. As you saw before, I used a brush and kind of brushed out. I didn't have any paint on the brush, and I was just brushing out outlines of where my trees are going to be. And now I'm just putting in the trunks with the knife, and I'm just using the side of the blade, not straight on, just a little bit of a side, as you can see. And it's a little thick, but not completely thick. It's not too thick for the size of the painting. And again, if I've got this impressionistic look, I don't want the trees to be rigid and perfect. So I'm putting in imperfect trunks. It's a little bit of alizarin crimson to go with what is in there in the background, along with some burnt umber. And again, and that's another thing I wanted to get to, color selection. The color selection, to a degree, is irrelevant. What you need to keep in mind is try not to use every color you have. And if you put one color in one area of your painting, put that same color and or color mixture in another area of your painting. It'll help unify it a little bit. As you can see, I have a lot of that color in the midground and what will be background trees, but I also have some of it in the foreground on the front riverbank. And it's a unifier. It helps to keep it to where it's balanced color-wise. Like I said, it doesn't matter what the color is, to a degree, to a very large degree, but it does matter that you have it in more than one place. Okay, now this is kind of what I was talking about. I'm leaving a lot of that reddish forest visible behind the trees. And I'm doing this because it's different, and it started to appeal to me after a while. Now, while I was doing it, I wasn't all that happy with it. And that's one of the things that I also have gotten used to. I don't critique a painting right after I'm done painting it. Even if I don't, unless I absolutely hate it. If it's schematically wrong, if my perspective is way off, if there's some obvious things, then yes, I'll wipe it off and start all over again. But if it's a completed painting that schematically is correct and stuff, I'll put it aside for a week, maybe two, let it dry, and then kind of put it on my easel again and just kind of look at it, get an idea of what I like, what I don't like, and then I can always make adjustments. This one, it took me a little while to get to. I'm still not 100% sure I like it, but it's growing on me. So I've got a show in the beginning of November in Omaha, a couple states away, Nebraska. And I'll know by then if I like it enough to bring it to the show. As of right now, I'm kind of up and down. There's some elements about it I like. There's some I don't like. The biggest thing is the red background on the right-hand side. Now, if you notice, similar color is right in the middle and towards the left. Now that I like a lot. That to me is very appealing. But the way the red is on the right, like I said, I'm up in the air. It's growing on me, but I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it quite like that. Okay, now I'm putting in the water. Okay, I already put in the base layer, which was cerulean blue and French ultramarine, more French ultramarine than cerulean. And I put in the white to get some idea of where movement is. And now to break up the white, so it's not just white only, like it's foam only, I'm putting in some more blue, French ultramarine, making it dark, in different places. And now I've got a nice subtle hint to it. I've got some darks here, I got some light blues, and I got some white. And then you can definitely see subtle swells in the water. There's some more blue. And it's just, whenever you're painting, the more experience you get, the better you're going to get at it. But you paint until, you paint an element until it's refined to your taste. You can't really paint to other people's taste, no matter how much we want to please everybody else. You have to paint to your taste. And that's kind of what I do with everything. And I had to learn that. I kept asking people, what do you think? What do you think? What should I change? What should I do? Whatever the case may be. And it got to the point when I finally talked to a couple people that were artists for a long time. They said, you got to paint what's inside of you to paint. And you will find people that love it, and you'll find people that hate it, and you'll find some that don't care about it either way. And that was kind of the tough thing. When you first start painting, you want everybody to love it. And it's just not the case. You know, it doesn't matter if you're Leonardo da Vinci. There's going to be some people that just say, that's not for me. So you can't take that personal. Everybody's art is subjective, so everybody has their own opinions and stuff. Okay, now if you notice, I'm doing the same technique that I did for my clouds, okay, but I'm using it for the water. So I put in a lot of the white stuff with the fan brush, and now I'm moving the color, blending a little bit with the blue underneath, but most of it is just moving the color around. And now I'm just adding the waves here and there where I like, where I think they should be, that type of thing. Now, if you look at just a real quick few second lesson in perspective, to the left is the furthest distance of that river, and those waves are the smallest. And as you come to the right, which is the mouth that opens and more in the foreground, the waves get bigger. Same thing with anything else. The further away it is, the smaller it is. The closer it is, the bigger it is. The further away, the less defined it is as far as detail, and the duller the color. The closer it is, the more detail and the more vibrant color. So that's a quick 25-second perspective lesson for landscapes. Okay, now I am just using a little bit of Sap Green, a little bit of Burnt Umber, a little bit, believe it or not, there's a little bit of Alizarin Crimson in there. I'm starting to use Alizarin Crimson in a lot of areas of my paintings because it's such a nice, I like the warmth that it gives. Like you see, that's what I guess I'm drawn to a little bit with the red in the background. It's not a stark red, but it has that warmth to it to go against the cool sky and the cool trees. And that's kind of where I'm leaning towards a little bit. Okay, now what I'm doing is I'm just making these soft areas of these front riverbank bushes. These aren't reeds like I usually do. These are more bushy. And I'm just tapping in a little light green. Don't want anything to be really in your face. I've got in your face with the red in the mid-ground. I don't want in your face everywhere. There has to be a contrast of, subtle and then, oh, wow, it's in your face type of thing. I apologize for using that phrase. It's not, professional phrase, but it is pretty accurate. Now, what I'm doing there is the same thing. If you notice, it's very subtle, the greens that I'm putting in. And the reason, again, is because that red is so intense, I'm trying to make the nice contrast. So even though I'm putting highlights on, they're not bright highlights. And I'm blending here. This isn't just tapping on and letting it sit on top. I'm blending it to lighten it a little bit, but I still want the values to be a lot darker on the trees than the background and that red. I want that red to be, if I'm going to leave it in, I want it to be a little more pronounced like it is. And we are almost done with this painting. We got a few more things to go. But this is a little different, like I said, than what I usually do. The composition is very similar, although there's not a mountain like I put in most of them. But the color combinations, especially in that mid to slightly background, that's what's, changed a little bit for this one. And there wasn't any preconceived idea of what I was doing beforehand, okay? It just started out that way when I just started putting color on with that 2-inch brush. I liked the way the shapes were looking. I liked the way it was starting out. And I wanted to keep it that way. So, this is kind of what we're going to go with here. And like I said, If you like it, let me know. If if it was a home run or just a double, let me know. If it was a total strikeout, like I said, everybody's going to be different. Some are going to love it, some are going to hate it. But I love comments. I always respond back to them. So give me an idea what you think of it. But one of the things that I want to get across, and I'm hoping you're watching this to the end, is whatever you do when it comes to your paintings, please, please, please have fun with it. It doesn't matter if it's a complete success or a masterpiece. If you had fun, if you enjoyed yourself, if you learned something, it was a complete success. I hope to see you again. If you like this, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next week.